Welcome to Turn Into Podcast. I'm Gina. Join me in my journey and discover how women's stories are woven into our lives, reflecting the beautiful tapestry of human experience. Welcome back to Turn Into. I'm so glad you are here with us again as we continue the story of the Mushroom Lady. So, where were we? All right, I was struggling, not with the world, but with myself, with my own heart, my own senses, my own path. A year and a half had passed since my first transformative encounter with mushrooms. Life had decelerated, shifting from a frantic race to a quiet walk. I was searching for something real, a job with meaning, a purpose that resonated deeper than a paycheck. But reality, as it often does, had other plans. My credit card debt was a quiet hum of anxiety in the back of my mind, growing louder each month with the sting of interest. A small persistent voice inside me whispered, "Trust, it will unfold perfectly." It's a beautiful sentiment, but hard to hold on to when the bills are piling up. So, with a spiritual side and a very unspiritual grimace, I started looking for a job. I went through the motions of interviews, which felt less like career opportunities and more like elaborate charades where I pretended to care about sales goals and analytics. With each polite rejection email, or in one memorable instance, an actual physical letter stating, "We regret to inform you that your aura did not align with our corporate culture," I realized I was subconsciously screaming, "This isn't what I want anymore." My spirit wasn't just rebelling, it was staging an interpretive dance protest against the life I was supposedly trying to build. And in that space of quiet rebellion, Andres and I were like mirrors for each other. He reflected my deepest wounds, and I his. There was a raw honesty to it, but we learned how to heal those parts of ourselves and move forward together. In the beginning, our relationship was a partnership built on the solid ground of equity and mutual respect, as we both navigated our careers. But the landscape shifted the moment I stopped working. Then, almost overnight, we somehow time warped into a Mad Men episode from the 1950s. He became the provider, valiantly venturing forth to slay the corporate dragons, or at least sit in a lot of meetings. Meanwhile, my world, which used to span continents of possibility, suddenly shrank to the precise dimensions of our living room rug. My days were a blur of meticulously organized chaos, cooking meals worthy of a magazine cover, scrubbing surfaces until they gleam with existential dread, and running errands with the efficiency of a highly caffeine squirrel. I was playing the part of Miss Perfectly Organized, a character so committed to her domestic duties she probably alphabetized the spice rack in her sleep. It's really no surprise, then, that the Sunday blues started haunting me like a ghost in sensible shoes. That familiar dread of a weekend ending and a life I no longer recognized, staring me as the overly enthusiastic, slightly unhinged housewife beginning anew. The space between Andres and me had become a canyon carved out by the slow erosion of our shared dreams, We were no longer on parallel journeys. He chose the steady rhythm of the corporate world, exchanging boundless horizons for the brief comfort of a 10-minute sunbreak. His weekends settled into a predictable cadence of Netflix and family lunches, a lullaby of comfort that sounded to my ears like a cage. During my last mushroom journey, a seed of knowledge had been planted deep within me. I was going to get pregnant soon, and with that knowledge came a question that hammered at my brain, relentless and terrifying. Was Andres the father of my future children? One day, caught in the middle of my Mad Men TV show, something made me stop. I turned my face to the sky. It was so blue and vibrant that it felt alive, and the clouds looked like cotton candy, soft and sweet, melting into one another. At that moment, a thought struck me like a physical blow. Wait a minute. Is this truly the life I signed up for? A wave of gratitude for Andres washed over me. He had been my best friend. He taught me how to think, how to reflect in a way no one else ever had. He loved me and gave me stability, a sense of being grounded when I felt like I might float away. He was loyal, a hard worker, and supportive partner. No drama, no addictions. To make it even more difficult, my family adored him. But our paths had diverged. I yearned to see the world, to live in another country, and I knew deep down he would never leave the status he had built in Mexico to start over somewhere new. Though I truly loved him, I had an aching certainty that I couldn't grow if I had to stay. Andres resented my emotional distance. One night, he crossed a line, mistaking my body for his property. It wasn't until the next day that I fully grasped what had happened. What I remember is the flood of tears, a deep, soul-shaking sorrow that had been building for months. In that moment of complete emotional release, I knew the decision wasn't being made. It had already settled in my bones. It was time to move on. 2 days later, a job offer arrived from San Miguel de Allende, and in that same week, in a moment of bittersweet synchronicity, my stepmother passed away. The inheritance was just enough to pay my debts, buy a car, and move. It was September 2017. What about those hating senses, you ask? The ones the Martians had awake. The pain of the breakup was so immense that I disconnected from my body. I threw myself into work, a frantic distraction, and then into a new relationship that burned bright and fast, lasting only a month before fizzling into ash. And then came the crisis, an experience so stressful, so otherworldly, that I prayed for 2 solid days without sleeping. I still have no scientific explanation for what happened to me. All I know is that it left me with a profound case of post-traumatic stress. My mind was wiped clean, a blank notebook. I knew who I was, I remembered my family, my past, but my entire system of beliefs had been shut down. My senses were screaming. My sense of smell was so acute, I could perceive a cigarette being smoked blocks away. The sunlight physically hurt my eyes. I was never a mathematician, but now simple addition felt like advanced calculus. And sleep? Impossible. I would wake up 5 times at night, a cold dread washing over me, feeling presence in the room. Abusive, negative voices whisper in my ear, trying to diminish me, to break me down. I didn't know what was happening. My family, though they love me, are from a different world. To them, hearing voices is the work of the devil or a sign of madness. A therapist would have likely diagnosed me with schizophrenia, handed me pills that would have turned me into a zombie, blocking the serotonin, the very hormone of love and joy. I would lose the voices, but I would also lose my ability to feel. In contrast, in many African indigenous cultures, what Western societies may label as craziness isn't seen as an illness to be cured, but rather as a natural process within human beings. It's often understood as a revelation of the spirit attempting to manifest, a sacred communication that requires careful interpretation and guidance, not suppression. So I follow my intuition, hang in there, allow whatever needs to come up to come up. For months, I woke up sweating and desperate, my heart pounding from nightmares. In one, I traveled to the future and saw the state of our planet. A vision you truly don't want to know. I would drag myself to work, exhausted, and as night fell, the anxiety would rise again, a tide of fear, because I knew the nightmares, the presence, the voices would be awaiting for me. One day, I just look up and ask, how long, how much longer can I live like this? Through that fire, I learned something profound. I don't need to consume mushrooms anymore to access that wisdom. It's already here. We are all connected. We just need to return to our natural state of being to hear it. My perspective shifted. I became more scientific, more empirical, integrating all that I had previously learned with a new approach and understanding. If I'm sharing my experience on this podcast, it's because someone else out there is likely going through the same things I experienced. Hear me. A light awaits at the tunnel's end. This is not an ending, but a rebirth. I stand here, a living testament to that truth. Saying all that, I'm not here to tell you what to do. Use your own judgment. Follow your own intuition. Do I regret my experiences with mushrooms? Not for a second. It is from our greatest failures that we gain our deepest wisdom. We have to honor our past, learn from it, and embrace it as part of who we are. To be old and wise, you first have to be young and stupid. And I have been very stupid. I would rather live a life overflowing with my own experiences than a life dictated by someone else's vision. Finding your own truth takes courage. It takes time alone, contemplation, and a willingness to question anything. This often means less time spent scrolling through social media and more time immersed in nature. However, please don't take anything I have said in this podcast as a gospel. Instead, discard it and go find your own truth. Oh, and by the way, my sister Dalia, years after her mushroom experience, she finally ended her toxic relationship. She found love again, remarried, and he's genuinely happy. Still growing, still facing challenges, just like all of us. Who knows what the catalyst was? Perhaps we just need to allow the universe to unfold as it should. A year after my psychic break, I started to see slow improvements in my health, but I knew I still had a long way to go. Then, one morning, I woke up with an undeniable urge to start over. Somewhere close to the beach. In a single week, I quit my job and sold everything I owned. My furniture, my car, my bike, all of it. I was ready to embark on a new adventure, setting my sights on the Riviera Maya. A new chapter of my life was clearly emerging. But, as the saying goes, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And that, well, that's a story for another time. Let's go back for a moment to Ayautla, to María Sabina. She became a reluctant icon, her face on album covers, visited by rock stars and artists, the Beatles, Bob Dylan. Some came with respect, but many more came as an spiritual tourist, disrupting her life and the sacred traditions of her people. In the years that followed, she faced great hardship. Her home was looted, her community was strained by the influx of outsiders and the inevitable government crackdown. Meanwhile, a French mycologist patented the mushroom psilocybin, creating pills, now worth billions. While María Sabina and the Mazatec people, the original stewards of this sacred medicine, saw none of these profits. María Sabina often expressed her sorrow, lamenting that the mushrooms had lost their purity, that their spirit was gone, because they were being used for recreation, not healing. Yet, she remained a healer until her death in 1985. Her life is a powerful reminder of the profound wisdom held by indigenous people, and it challenges us to approach that wisdom with humility and respect. Her voice still echoes, inviting us to listen more closely to the whispers of the earth and to the wisdom we all hold within. Many Westerns saw her simply as a healer, but she was more than that, wiser by the purity of her heart. The material world wasn't seductive for her. She deeply knew what the Little Prince once said: "What is essential is invisible to the eye." In our oncoming episode, my journey to the Riviera Maya takes an unexpected turn. First, a brief return to Veracruz, my hometown. It's there, amidst familiar streets, that a serendipitous meeting with an indigenous woman will redefine my path and change everything I thought I knew. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support the work I'm doing, please consider checking out my Patreon. You can find the link in the show notes. Your gratitude and support help me create more content you love. You can also follow me at Instagram at Gina Art. See you next week, and remember, you were born to shine.